Okay. So, I mean, basically, I think what I found in writing at least two, like, different sections of my history is sort of the reason why I choreograph as a dancer and the reason why I'm now a vegan. Not so much in, like, the vegan aspect, but just, like, why I eat really healthy. So, yeah. So, like, why I eat healthy and why I choreograph. When I was 16, I had the flu for 33 hours, which is sort of normal. Like, everybody has some, like, terrible flu, and then they get better and everything's fine. But that's not normal for everyone on all sides of the world. So for me, I, like, had the flu for 33 hours, and I, like, didn't sleep, and I was just, like, vomiting. And I lost 8 pounds, and I just, like, couldn't stand, and it was a total mess. And then the doctor gave me medicine, and the next morning I was totally fine. And that was, like, the first time where I was just sort of like, wow, I'm so lucky. I can just get medicine. I have health insurance. That was nothing. But when I was in it, I got it after my wisdom teeth, so, like, the Vicodin was, like, wearing off. So it was this mixture of, like, the pain from the wisdom teeth and the Vicodin making me all hazy and the flu of just being like, this is actual hell. Like, this is the worst I've ever felt in my life, and it's going to get better. And then I was just thinking, like, that's not the reality for some people. They're not going to get better. And so I, like, started seriously choreographing so I could put on a show, which I called Steps for Africa. I, like, researched which, like, you know, area of the world I wanted to help, like, who I wanted to help, and I came on it's for Swaziland, like, orphans who have AIDS, and I was like, well, they give all their money, they're really small, they operate on, like, you know, less than $1 a day, like, I'm just gonna talk to them. So I did this, like, my first ever choreographed shows in my hometown and senior year of high school, and, like, we raised $1,000, and, like, I was just so excited because I felt like dance actually started mattering more to someone else besides myself. And, like, that just came from, like, having the flu. Like, it really was a progression. Like, I remember thinking, like, okay, I need to do something because I'm so healthy, and, like, I am, like, privileged enough to be able to, like, move my body around for, like, a good cause. And so then that sort of, like, the moral of that story to me just sort of seemed like, well, if I can treat my body well, then why don't I? So then I started thinking of other ways to just, like, become really healthy because I could. And so then I was, like, researching all these vegetables, and I, like, hadn't eaten red meat forever, but I gave up chicken and fish then just because I, like, read more on it, Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer, and my best friend did it as well. So then that was when I was, like, officially vegetarian as well. So it's like choreography and vegetarianism happened then. And then this past summer when I was 20, I went to Peru, and I couldn't go out at night without a fellow volunteer. I was teaching English because it was just too dangerous. And even when I was with men, it was completely just for the sake of men not actually attacking me. It didn't mean they, like, restrained themselves. So they'd say all these rude things, and it was just terrible. And so every night, again, it was like, okay, I'm privileged. I'm flying home in 2 months to go to New York City where I can dance and be free and, like, relatively speaking, live without the fear of getting in some serious trouble. And so, like, with that in mind, I was like, okay, again, how am I going to engage in some, like, self-preservation here? Because I'm going to be here for 2 months, and I'm going to be screamed at constantly. Like, how am I going to do this, you know? And so every night I would just, like, say, like, okay, roommates, I need an hour, and I would just turn off the lights, and I would choreograph. And, like, no mirrors, no dance clothes. Like, the loudest thing I had was my MacBook, so, like, terrible speakers. But I created, like, really interesting work that I'm now developing in my advanced choreography class here. And it just, like, it was so infused with emotion, and like half the time, not half the time, but like on the really bad days, the full hour would just be me like sobbing and dancing. So it was this weird like body interpretation of like what was going on mentally, and it translated. And the choreography is just like, I mean, not to like pat myself on the back, but like when I came back and I showed my parents, they were like, what the hell? Like, where did you learn how to do that? Like, we've never seen you dance like that before. And then like I showed my friends and they were like, oh my God. Like, and I felt it. It was just this like I again felt like I started to dance for something, not just like this presentational like tendu, plie, arabesque. Like, it was more than that. And so again, like part of what I felt in Peru was like, I can't help that I'm attractive. I can't help that I'm a female. Like, this is unfair. I'm getting screamed at and jeered at, and like, you know, men are just treating me like an object, and I can't help that I look like this. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, what can I help? And I was like, well, like my friend who went with me to volunteer, like we would engage in like community meals at the end. Like, we'd all take turns cooking, or we'd all cook something together. And that also became our saving grace, is just like cooking together at the end of a really long day, and like going to the market every morning, all the volunteers together, not the females, but all of the volunteers together, and like picking out the ingredients. So there was something so like community building and liberating and just like essential to cooking, that it again was this sense of like, oh, like I am in control of this part of my body. Like, I'm not in control of what I look like, but I'm in control of like my own reasons for liking it. I don't care about their reasons for liking it. I care about my own. So we were, you know, we'd like craft all the meals, and it just became hysterical and fun. And like, I remember we cooked veggie burgers for the other volunteers and some of our the family members of our students, and like they eat so much meat, and like I just, you know, us giving them veggie burgers, they're like, what are these crazy Americans trying to feed us? Like, this is ludicrous. But like they really enjoyed it, and it was just like hysterical, and it just became so like elemental, but also just like our prized possession of the day. And like when I was cooking with ingredients and stuff, I was like, hey, I'll just try and be vegan, like just because, you know, like it's fun, and all of these vegetables are really fresh, and I'm in Peru, and why not? And that sort of like stuck with me from that, because of this question of like, what am I in control of in my body? Like, what can I do to make it like thrive, so to speak? Because like, you know, self-preservation and artistic reasons sort of like combine themselves. What's funny is I've always been in improv classes, contact improvisation, or just regular improvisation with dance, and there's such a wonderful thing about being a dancer, because we get to touch each other so much. We get to have physical contact, and that's so rare. Like, you know, you don't realize you're upset until you hug someone and you start bursting out crying, you know? I feel like I have less of those moments because I'm constantly in contact with people, so I'm not lacking that, you know? And I think that's so important to that sort of divide, because you're right, there's so much that's like outward, you know? And so then the internal thing, it seems like that could get really like lonely and oppressive almost, but like, I don't know, it's like, at the risk of being cliche, like dance is that bridge of the divide for me. And like, and then just in terms of like also being intuitive, I absolutely need human relationships. Like, I call my mom every single day and just like laugh with her and talk with her, and then like, you know, in rehearsals, like the 10 minutes after class, sometimes one of us will just like burst out crying and the other will like talk about it. Like, there's never like anything more important to me than that. Like, I just like need the contact. Yeah.